So Jeremy gave his speech yesterday, and one of the things that I want to pick up on is the social housing crisis. It is bad, it is a monopoly, and there are people out there getting rich from it and from the backs of other people. But there could be a dark side to social housing, and whether you agree or disagree with what I am about to say, it is something that could come into play. Stay till the end and I will tell you exactly what the dark side could actually lead to. As Jeremy Corbyn has said, the Tories have said, the average house price is £250,000, even more in London. And that kind of price has to make it harder for the younger generation. He wants to build 500,000 houses for social housing, and this in turn, he said, will create a further 120,000 jobs. This particular aim don't just create homes then, but it potentially gets people off the dole. He also mentions that when parks are closing, homeless people are going into them to find a bench to sleep. Yeah, I've done that many times. Many private rental rates are sky high, but with the lack of social housing, where it could mean that rents are lower, private landlords are capitalising on the rarity of social housing. But all this stems back to the fact that Maggie Thatcher bought in the right to buy. People have made fortunes from this and continue to do so. He has to get rid of the right to buy, and we people should never ever be allowed to buy a house that is council owned. As of 2014, there were 60,940 households that were homeless, and they were placed in temporary accommodation. But at the same time when these figures were around, there were also 635,127 empty houses. These figures are astounding, and although we are now 2 years on, I can't really see that figure changing much. But there are houses out there that are overcrowded, with growing families that live in social housing. It's great to build 500,000 homes, and after all, you're putting people back into work possibly. But one, them homes, if they are for social housing, have to be protected from buyers. And two, we have to see and search if there are any empty council houses out there, and it may well be that some of these homes have been left to rack and ruin, so we have to invest in possibly refurbishing some of them homes to make them livable again. Now, is it cheaper to make a house livable over actually building a house from scratch? Now, Jeremy Corbyn, who I love, by the way, and if you regularly watch this channel or subscribe to me on social media, you will come to the conclusion of how much I love him. But Jeremy Corbyn wants to develop lifetime tenancies on social housing, and that has to be a good thing. Low rent means that people quite possibly could save a deposit for a house later on, and that could also reduce the monopoly on the private rent sector. But as I said at the top, there could be a dark side to these lifetime tenancies. Let me give you a scenario, right? You've got a pensioner aged 89, let's call her Mabel, that lives in a council house. Obviously, she has a pension, but she also receives some form of benefit to help with living expenses and the ability to pay the rent on the council house that she is living. Now, Mabel has lived in this house for years. Her kids have grown up in the house and they have now moved out. But unfortunately, her husband has since died, and she now lives in her 3-bedroom council house all on her own. Now, down the road in another town, you have the Richardsons, a young couple who got hold of a council house when they had their first child. But at the time, they only qualified for a 2-bedroom house. And at the moment, they are on a very low income, so they too receive housing benefit in some shape or form. But now they have 3 kids, and they have been trying to get a bigger council house for a few years now. Then all of a sudden, your nan, Mabel, gets a letter from the council. She has to move out with all her worldly goods and memories to make space for this family. She has to move into a 1-bedroom house 30 miles away, and another family has to move into the 2-bedroom, and the Richardsons into the 3-bedroom. As Mabel's relatives, what would you say to the council? Is it right she has to possibly move away from her family that she relies on? She doesn't know anyone in the town she is moving to, doesn't know where anything is. At 89, she has to start all over again with regards to getting to know public transport and other amenities. Can be quite worrying for a lady of her age. Well, in 2010, ministers tried to do just that with a housing swap scheme. If you can pay the full rent, then that's fine. But then that brings into question the eligibility of housing benefit in the first place. It did only apply to the working age, but with more and more people living longer, the amount of pensioners in our country are stacking up, limiting the amount of council houses available at the right size to restrict overcrowding. Could this mean the true nature of social housing? Could this type of thing end overcrowding of poorer families? I am at the moment in a big, massive debate with someone over this. Their belief is that Mabel should move out and let the Richardsons have the bigger house, as it's simply not fair on the Richardsons that they stay squeezed into their house when Mabel has more room in her house than anyone involved in this link. If I'm honest, I don't know, but I have to also say it does kind of make sense. It could benefit a lot of families, make them happier, instill positivity and maybe a little bit of ambition to get a better job and aim for that higher pay packet. We all know Jeremy Corbyn's policies on housing and they are commendable, but I feel we have to look at it from every single angle. This poll proves what people think about the policies of the Conservatives on housing. You may love the messenger, doesn't mean you always love the message. I think the proof is in the pudding. As for Mabel and the Richardsons, what do you think? What would you do if Mabel was your nan? Or even your mum? Do you agree with the scenario that I presented? What's your definition or thoughts on social housing? Did you in fact buy and profit from a council house? Let me know in the comments below. Click subscribe if you don't want to miss an episode. Thanks for watching. Thank you so much if you do subscribe, and I'll see you again next time. Has to make it harder for the younger generation. He wants to... Fucking dog.